suddenly my legs just go stiff, and I start falling like backward towards where the waterfall is. And I remember it. Time slowed down, and I was like, "Fuck, oh shit, I'm gonna die." They said I probably had PPMS, primary progressive multiple sclerosis, and he gave me said I would live until maybe 33, 34, if that was the diagnosis. They wouldn't, they said there was a lot of uncertainty, but that was their primary guess at the time. I got antibiotics, but I got them a bit too late, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If I had them 2-3 years earlier, then maybe I wouldn't have progressed as much.
Yeah.
And my muscles wouldn't have deteriorated, and neurons will be still functioning, but then I wouldn't have had all this, this experience which I've gone through.
Boom, we're live. Welcome to the Abnormies podcast, episode 1. I am Sai. Joining me is Brandur. Hello, mate.
Hey, dude.
How you doing? You good?
Yeah, I'm wonderful.
Good stuff. So, I was going to say for new listeners, everybody is a new listener because it's episode 1.
It's simple.
Basically, this podcast is myself and Brandur going through various facets of technology, crypto, and various, and various things to do with disabilities. Brandur is paralyzed from the neck down. I myself have a condition where it could lead to full paralysis. So we're just two happy guys living our best life. So yeah, that's what the podcast is going to be. It's going to be our journey, our story. Hopefully we'll have some guests, some various people from the technological world, the NFT scene, the crypto space, and all facets of life. Yeah.
Exciting. I'm excited.
Yeah, I am too. Brandur, episode 1, I think we'll spend this episode getting to know you and your backstory. So let's kick it off. Who are you? Where were you born? Where did it all begin?
I am Icelandic. I was born and raised all over the world, kind of. Well, Iceland and America mostly, and England and Denmark. And my mother is a geophysicist, so I was raised by a group of wild scientists. And I was a pretty normal guy, I think, up until like 23, university, that kind of stuff, studying biology.
Yeah.
And then I was gonna study astrobiology and try to go into space when people started going there.
Yeah.
But along the way, I got some kind of bacteria into my brainstem, and that over a period of 4 years just took away my ability to control my own body. So, that's about 10 years ago. So, after an initial shock, I kind of adjusted, and I'm lucky to live in Iceland, where the social system is pretty good. Everything can be better, I suppose, but it's pretty good here. So, I'm after a couple of years of fighting for our rights, we have managed to create a pretty, decent life for disabled people in Iceland. So I am able to travel and start companies and do art. I'm an artist, of course. We can talk about that later.
We will.
And just kind of, live my life.
So let's go back 10 years then. You were studying, did you say astrobiology?
Yeah, well, I was studying to become an astrobiologist. So they didn't have it yet as a specific field here in Iceland. So I was studying physics. I was going to get a bachelor's in physics, and then go off somewhere else, probably America, to add on the various fields that I needed so that I could call myself an astrobiologist, which is basically somebody who studies life, the origin of life in the universe, both as it happened and potential ways it might
Wow.
happen.
Wow. So I was about to say I was unsure what astrobiology was, but you've explained that perfectly. So is that the origin of all life? Is that the goal of astrobiology?
It's the theoretic possibility. Well, it's like from a theoretical side as well as an actual side. So like not only how did we come to be here, life on Earth,
Lizards.
but also like how lizards. Yes. They live in the center of the planet.
Yeah.
But no, it's also like theoretically. So I mean, we are carbon-based life forms. There might be nitrogen-based life forms. There might be, types of life which we haven't imagined yet. So that's kind of the exploration. But my goal was to. I read two books, actually 4 books by Kim Stanley Robinson. They kind of set me on this path. One book was Antarctica, and the other was a trilogy, the Mars trilogy. Red Mars, Green Mars, Blue Mars, and kind of those together helped me form my life plan, which was to become an astrobiologist, and then I was gonna work in Antarctica for a couple of years as a science assistant, and then once the call for Mars would come, then I would be already having hands-on experience in working in extreme environments and being very useful for a multidisciplinary scientific community, which is again what astrobiology kind of trains you for. It gives you a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Physics, geology, biology.
Excellent. So, I mean, you didn't get to go and fulfill that aspect of studying astrobiology. I mean, I can solve that for you by saying, I don't know if you've ever read a book, right? The beginning of the book says, "In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth." So there's your answer right there. So I can save you years of experiments there. There's your answer.
Problem solved.
Problem solved.
Well, how did he do it? That's the interesting question. It's not like did he do it? Or...
God magic, obviously.
Well, how does it work? What is the mechanism of the magic? Like,
God
which
magic.
finger does it come out of? It's like there's always a question.
Our feeble brains don't understand that. We can't comprehend His greatness.
No. But it's fun to try. That's kind of that's what I like about science. It's not about absolutes. It's about just pulling threads.
Yeah.
And like seeing where does it go.
I better put a disclaimer out there to anybody who is of a religious background. We're not making fun of beliefs. I suppose. I suppose me and you will probably have similar beliefs. I'm quite skeptical on most things. Until I see evidence, I'm pretty skeptical. But we have no agenda against any religions. Everyone's welcome on the Abnormies.
I'm quite jealous of people who have found evidence that gives them that conviction. I mean, I would love for something like that, but for me, I like keeping it open. I mean, I don't not believe in anything. I don't see the point of like putting a stamp down on something and saying this is true and nothing else.
Yeah. Well, I think my views have evolved since my 20s. I was very much a staunch atheist. I was probably very annoying to be around.
Yeah, me too. I love debating priests.
Yeah.
Why?
I used to, but now I am more open-minded. I got more into psychedelics in the works of Dennis McKenna and people of that ilk.
Stoned ape.
Yeah, and I took a lot of magic mushrooms, and I had experiences that I couldn't otherwise explain, and I got into the multiple help us out here. Multiple theory.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? I can't.
No, I lost you. What's your favorite Shroom experience?
It was last year. Because Dennis McKenna famously said to experience all life has to offer is to take 6 grams of dried mushrooms. So
a heroic dose.
Yeah, heroic dose. I decided to take 8. Just to be different, you know, and I couldn't possibly put it into words, that trip. It was scary, extremely scary, but beneficial afterwards. Like the amount of benefit it had afterwards.
Can you give me some one like core thing that you got out of it?
It was see, this is going to sound really hippie, but it was that we are all light, and we will return to the light. That was the overwhelming message that was being sent to me, that I was picking up on. That was the overwhelming, that there's nothing to fear, that we are light and we go back to the light.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I mean, I don't know whether if you're a bad person you go to the light or you go to the dark, but I was definitely being shown the light, so I must be a good guy. There's definitely a lot of light involved.
Interesting philosophical question is like, are there bad people?
Exactly.
You know, or do they really think, I'm a bad guy?
Yeah.
I think everybody's trying to be good, but some people kind of horribly fail. Horribly.
But then you move into the realm of psychopathy, and are they aware, therefore, of what it is to be decent?
We'll have to put the brain as one of our future topics. I love learning. I'm doing a course now on YouTube about like updated information about how the brain works and how different regions function and how they work together. And it's very, very enlightening. You have a Shroom experience. I'll give you I once did the same. They like called to me. So my subconscious was just eating them like candy. And I went out for a walk. And in Iceland, used to be a lot of violence downtown, like drunk people beating each other up and people crying over broken relationships and etc. And there, I just glided through it all one night, feeling like I was floating above the air, feeling so, like I was looking at it from above. And ever since then, I've just kind of been different. It's like we don't need to engage with all of that stuff.
Yeah. Have you taken hallucinogens since the spinal cord damage?
Yeah, I didn't do it so much when I was younger, but I've done it a few times. Have you done it since being in the paralyzed? Have you done? Yeah. And how would you say? Would you say that differed from obviously the first time where you could move freely to the second time not being able to move freely? How did that experience differ, would you say? Oh, that's an interesting question. I mean, it was totally different, but there were elements to it that were similar, I suppose. But I suppose I could say that for, the experiences before as well. None of them was exactly the same. It's always different. You're kind of setting yourself loose on a journey somehow. So in many ways, it's the same for me today. I did it on New Year's Eve, actually. I went downtown and somebody left me. And I was there in the wheelchair, pretty drunk. People kept coming up to me and asking like, "Oh, are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. You want a drink?" "Yes, tequila." So I got quite, and all kinds of, it was really interesting. It was like, there's this thing which reaches outside of the trips. It's like this experiment in trusting people.
Yeah.
Like all my travels and everything I've been doing, generally wherever I go, people come and offer to help. And it's been very rewarding to kind of have that experience of like being able to rely on strangers and circumstances. So I suppose, that was something I got out of that. But no, I think I'll pass the question over to you. So how is it been for you?
The last time I took mushrooms, I hadn't really, this disease hadn't taken hold properly yet.
Yeah.
So I was still fully, it was at the early stages where I had minor Parkinson's-like symptoms. But at that time, I was putting that down to just a muscle strain or a trapped nerve. So it had no real bearings at that time.
Yeah.
But let's keep this episode about you, and we'll move on. We'll move back to 10 years ago. So how did it all begin with because you say that it could have been bacteria, like a spinal bacteria infection. So what happened? How did it all start? What did you notice?
Well, I was playing basketball. This is the first time I remember like feeling it, and running back and forth up court. And then I had been kind of slowing down, so I'd not been keeping up with the other guys, which I thought I was just falling out of shape somehow. But one day it's like my leg just stiffens up, so it's like I can't bend my knees as I'm moving my feet forward. So I'm just running like I'm a stick man somehow. And, that was weird. And then I remember one day I jump up, I grab the ball, I land, and I'm unable to like use my leg to dampen the shock, and I just fall like onto my back. And all my friends, they were laughing at me. It looked very comical, but clearly they didn't know anything was going on. And that was kind of, it was like, what's that? That's really weird.
That's different.
Then, yeah, it's different. So I realized that it was something more than just me falling out of shape. And then I was working as a ranger in the West Iceland, and it was the best job in the world. It was driving around, being visible, helping people. It was really nice. But I noticed that I was walking less and less before this stiffness thing started coming. So I'd be normal, I could walk, nobody could tell anything was going on. And then after 15, 30 minutes of walking, I would just start getting stiff.
Yeah.
I remember, like, at that time, I was still kind of fighting it. So I remember, like, oh, fuck, screw this shit. I'm going to walk. Are we going to curse in this show or not? Because we might be very cursy.
Yeah.
All right. And then, those motherfuckers. Okay. And then I climb up on a waterfall, beautiful waterfall. And this is something I used to do as a kid. I would always try to follow the stream and see where the water came from. But this time I reached the waterfall, and it was like a 20 meters fall behind me, and suddenly my legs just go stiff, and I start falling like backward towards where the waterfall is. And I remember time slowed down, and I was like, fuck, oh shit, I'm gonna die. And then I land on my butt, and I punctured my trousers, and it was painful. I rolled over my shoulder, my legs straight up into the air, and then I landed again, like a what's it called? Like a gymnast, like with my hands out. And I looked down, and behind my heels was like maybe 20 centimeters until the straight fall down. So that was a really close one, and that was when I kind of accepted, all right, so I'm not, can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then I went to a doctor, and he told me there was nothing wrong with me. So I went to another doctor a little later, and they found this spot on my brainstem. And that doctor told me that I probably
MRI, is that right?
Yeah, it was MRI.
Yeah.
So then we had, that asshole doctor. He made me wait. Fuck that guy. Anyway, maybe I should have said that. Anyway, we are not liable for any discrimination. All characters are fiction that are mentioned in the show.
Entertainment basement only.
Based only. I wish him the best. I'm just kidding. It was a horrible experience though. My mom was there, and he just comes after making us wait for like 2-3 hours. And then just says, hey, you probably have brain tumor. We can't do anything. So we just have to wait 6 months. And then you'll come and we'll take another picture and we'll see how you're doing then. And then he buggered off.
In hell.
Yeah. So I was like, poof. I was just, I felt like I was in a soap opera.
Yeah.
And here's your evil twin. And
that must have been an absolute gut punch.
Yeah. Yeah, but one of the biggest ones I've had in my life, and probably my mom too. but she's a very determined person. So we tapped into some personal contacts, and I think within a couple of weeks, I was on my way to America to Mayo Clinic, where we got into the. I had another doctor, and then there was an entire team of people, and I must say that was a really cool experience going through if you got money system of America.
Yeah.
It was really good service, and it's how medical systems should be. I think not necessarily privatized, but that kind of level of service. And they said I probably had PPMS, primary progressive multiple sclerosis,
Right.
and he gave me said I would live until maybe 33, 34, if that was the diagnosis. They wouldn't. They said it was a lot of uncertainty, but that was their primary guess at the time. And then I got home and I met Iceland's House. This guy who was kind of the guy who would usually diagnose the hard to diagnose people. And he basically said it's not MS, it's nothing of these common ones. So he said he didn't know, but he kind of he gave me a bit of closure, I think, because if it was this virus, then there wasn't really anything to do. I got antibiotics, but I got them a bit too late, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If I had them 2-3 years earlier, then maybe I wouldn't have progressed as much.
Yeah.
Then my muscles wouldn't have deteriorated, and neurons will be still functioning, but then I wouldn't have had all this, this experience which I've gone through. As a consequence,
when he diagnosed he didn't diagnose. When he said that it wasn't the MS, was that a relief knowing that life expectancy cap had been lifted? It must have been a great relief.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was. I mean, it was weird. I mean, because for me, it was like for a month there or 2 months. I just assumed that this was it, that I had this. So I studied it, I researched it, I tried to prepare myself. What's my life going to be? So then when it wasn't that, then yes, I mean, then it could be anything. So
and how old were you? How old were you at the time where the doctor who said it could be MS give you till 33? How old were you at that time?
I think 28.
Right. So 5 years. 5 years around you are given.
Yeah, that's true.
Shit.
Yeah, that was. Yeah.
So when the diagnosis came back that it wasn't that, and it must have been some kind of bacterial infection, what stage were you at with your movements and your abilities then?
I was still able to shuffle around. So me and Mom went together by ourselves to America. And, I mean, she's very strong, so she helped me out a lot. But I could kind of shuffle around. I think I used the wheelchair by then.
Yeah. But you are still somewhat mobile.
Yeah. But of course, I felt really limited then. But it's all relative. Now I think of that time and I feel like I was a pro athlete or something.
Yeah. So are we still talking around the 10-year ago time frame?
Yeah, ish. Yeah.
So
it all blends up a bit. It's hard to kind of.
Yeah.
I need to look at a calendar to.
Yeah.
Be really sure, like how long ago was that? And
so how long would you say it went from that stage until you got to your worst, where you felt that you were the most incapable of doing pretty much any kind of major movements?
It was like for a while after that, I would just bounce between my home and the hospital bed. So I would, they always want to send you home. It costs money to have you in a bed. But then whenever I was getting a treatment or found a new doctor who wanted to do some new experiments, then I would go to the hospital, and like the longest stay was like 6 months. And then I'd go home for a month or two. And then I go back to the hospital for maybe 2-3 months. They gave me immunoglobulins and steroids. And basically, the way that they diagnose you is first they check all the main ones, like do you have MS, do you have, and then they take spinal fluid to test it, which sucks. They did that too many times on me. I always got worse much quicker when they took spinal fluid, so that was irritating.
Yeah.
But, then they tried to diagnose you by, well, they stab a needle between your spinal column bones, and if they go deep enough, there's like fluid which goes all the way from the base of your spine all the way up to your brain. So it like keeps all the neurons embalmed in this fluid, which passes nutrients around, but also passes like viruses and all kinds of neurohormones and stuff which is needed. So by extracting that and examining the contents, they are able to see are there elevated signs of inflammation, for example. And so I had that, which is indicative of some kind of damage, viral reaction, like antibodies to viruses or something like that.
Yeah.
So I had I might have had Lyme disease. We went to Germany at one point, and a specialized clinic were very certain that we had that, and they wanted to give me very high dose antibiotics. And I don't know, I wasn't quite convinced. Doctors at home weren't convinced, so it was like I didn't really want to risk it. Antibiotics or mess up our microbiome and do all kinds of bad shit. So if it wasn't that, it's not good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, they had a couple of these, but it was interesting because I tried to think of it like a retreat. I disconnected from all my past, my friends, most people. There were very few people that visited me in the hospital, and I kind of wanted that way. I watched all of Star Trek, and then I did a lot of online courses, and I was very lucky. Very nice nurses. The nurses really kept me alive for a long while there, just with kind
sponge bath,
like
nice sponge baths.
Yes, those were very nice. I had a bath like once every 5 days or something, so I was often quite stinky, and just the feeling of going into a fresh bed after. Like we had this thing called the Blue Lagoon, just like it's just like a plastic container which is big enough for a human body, and then the sides of it lift up so that it can contain a little bit of water. And they would put me in that, so I would be submerged partially in warm water, and then they'd shower me and clean me, and it was nice. In that context, of course, I don't think generally I would have enjoyed that kind of bath when I was not in need of it. Yeah. But
so at that point, then, moving on from there, when you were in hospital for 6 months at a time, what were the doctors saying was the future looking like for you then?
Well, the clever ones didn't even try to guess, but because they didn't know what it was. So they tried all kinds of things, but it was like, I don't know, they come in, they tried their range of things, and if it doesn't work, then they try to get somebody else involved. And that entire process was a bit disappointing. I would have thought that there were some kind of in-between organization. So you come to a doctor, he specializes in this and that. You don't fit into that, so he sends you on to the next doctor. And then, and there's some kind of chain there. And if somebody goes through the entire chain without getting a clear diagnostic, then the special dream team of doctors take you on as a interesting research case or something.
A mystery case.
Yeah, but I realized that the system here we don't have scientists. Doctors, they are practitioners, so they implement things that other people have discovered and figured out, rather than actually discovering things themselves. There are exceptions, of course, but for the most part, that's how it is.
Yeah.
But medical science is always progressing.
Yeah. So then,
today,
after all the hospital stints, when you started to come to terms with this is what life was going to be like, that your movement had gone, what did that feel like, and what was the next stage? Because obviously, I imagine life would have changed a lot in regards to living environment. You just explain what that change was like.
Yeah. So the world became really, really small. And I sort of remember when I was a child how, you have your home, and then you have these 2 other houses, friends that you visit every now and then, place you go to train, and that's it. That's your entire world, and then you grow up, you get a bicycle, you explore the neighborhood, the world grows, you travel to a different country, and then one day you get your driver's license, and suddenly the world just, grows and grows and grows.
Yeah.
So it was like ripping, it was like that in reverse in the beginning. It keeps getting smaller and smaller, fewer and fewer places where I could go, and I didn't deal well with the sympathy.
Yeah.
I would go somewhere, and the conversation would always revolve around me and my loss of abilities. So
pity.
I would
too much pity.
Yeah. Pity. I mean, now I don't care. I mean, now you kind of learn how to deal with it, and people move out of that stage very quickly.
Yeah.
I think you kind of, learn to show people that you're pretty cool about your current situation. But then, I think that was, so I closed myself in, and that was a part of it. But then, I started, there was, I remember a moment where somebody said, like, hey, you want to come out for a ride? And I was like thinking, no, then I might need to pee, and something, problem. And I said no. And then 2-3 hours later, I realized, I wish I was on that ride.
Yeah.
So I realized that, because I'd said no, he and my friend had just gone, found something else to do.
Yeah.
I was now busy. But if I'd said yes, then I could have changed my mind later if I really wouldn't have wanted it. So that was it's about the same time that the Yes Man was out, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe it was after that, but so that was kind of, I took that on. I started just being more adventurous, saying yes to people inviting me for a drive, rather than just assuming that they would be incompetent and not able to take care of this limited body of mine with me.
Yeah.
And then I remember after 4 years, I think, or maybe 5 years of being very secluded in the hospital and at home, meeting maybe, I think there were 7 nurses on rotation, a few doctors and mom, and then 1 or 2 friends of mine. This was my world for all these years. And then one day a friend of mine invites me to a wedding, and I have to go up these stairs and stuff, and I just decided, fuck it. Yes. Okay. I will come.
Yeah.
And then, we show up, a bunch of people come out and organize, carry me up these stairs. And then I'm left there. I'm just sitting in a corner somewhere, and everybody's talking, and I'd lost the ability to filter out conversation. So I would be sitting there trying to listen to 3 conversations at once.
Yeah.
And then somebody would come to me every now and then and like, hi, you're Brandur, and blah, blah, blah. And I talked to them, all the same, trying to listen to these conversations that were going on around me. That was a really confusing experience, but it was really interesting to experience coming out of, this seclusion. I would have never experienced anything like that without that. There was another one which I quite liked. That was after, I think it was after the 6 months in the hospital. Then I think it was winter, and then I went back into the hospital, and then it was summer, and then 4 or 5 friends of mine came, picked me up at the hospital, and we drove out into nature, and they gave me a spliff, and then I just sat there and I looked at the sun, like from nature, first time in like a year, and after 3-4 years of hospital, and that was like, yeah, indescribable. Like, you know, just it was so beautiful, and it was so like, yeah, it was such a nourishing experience. I remember I'd read a book about a guy who'd been in prison for 6 years and wrongfully accused of something, and when he came out, he said that it was almost worth going to prison for all that time to have that experience of standing under the sun on a warm summer's day, you know, and being free and just experiencing that liberation.
Yeah.
I kind of related to that somehow in that moment.
Yeah. So, friends and family aside, was it difficult? Were people treating you? Obviously, they would be treating you differently to how you would have been when you were able to walk and move around freely. How did that? How did you adapt to that? Was it almost like people were talking to others on your behalf, or was that experience difficult?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I think a lot of the time I just kind of was happy that people were talking to somebody else rather than me, because usually those conversations were, you know, about me, my situations. Like, so you get kind of tired of dealing with those, and then you get used to it. It's just part of life. You know, I'm sure most people with some conditions, they get used to, especially children. Although I love when children come up to you like, "Why don't you walk? Are you lazy?"
Yeah. The honesty of children is so refreshing in this world. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something we should try to emulate, you know, just kind of not always worry about the consequences of our questions and curiosity. Yeah. And, you know, you never, of course, we don't want to insult people and be, you know, crude or give people a bad experience. But, you know, at the same time, I think, like me, usually, unless I'm in a bad mood or something very tired, you know, I don't mind answering people's questions.
Yeah.
You know, so ask away.
Yeah. Okay, then. So you're now in this state which you don't know whether it's going to get any better or any worse. What's
going to get better?
No, I'm saying back then. Well, don't worry, we'll come to all that. I know we've both got.
I jumped the gun.
Yeah, yes, we've both got our goals of beating this. But what I mean is, at that time, you were wheelchair bound. You could only really move your head and your neck. How then did you make the transition into art? Because we should mention that we both met due to the digital art scene and the NFT scene. That's how we became accustomed with each other. So how did you first get into art? Were you doing art before the infection and the illness, or did that come afterwards?
Came afterwards. Finalizing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I never quite got art. A former girlfriend of mine was opening a gallery for modern art when we were together. So I was always there helping her out with shows, and I would get asked my opinion of works, and I would just make up words almost, or just blab something, and nothing, nothing was wrong. Like everything I said, kind of like, oh, that's an interesting interpretation. So for the scientist in me, that bugged me. Like I didn't like that,
Yeah.
There was nothing to hold on to. But what changed me, I think, was a book. It was, as it often is, there was a book called The Master and His Emissary by Ian McGilchrist. And that book, it's about, the two hemispheres, and he researched a lot of split brain patients, people who had their corpus callosum, the part of the brain that connects the left side to the right side. They cut that, and he had researched a lot of people to see like how they changed and what happened if they got brain tumor in this specific area on the right side or on the left side. And then he aggregated all of that into like this book. So it's 30 years of research on that. And I realized that basically what he was saying was that there are two modules, simply put, through which our brains generate and live in the universe, or in the world, sorry. A universe too. So I'd been very focused on this left brain approach, and I had been neglecting like the holistic right-brained, all-encompassing, side, creative side. So I wanted something creative to try and stimulate my right part of my brain. So that was kind of like my first spark. Then mouth painting just kind of came. I started at the time I was in physiotherapy center, and you can do arts and crafts there. Very supportive ladies who are helping us sew baskets and make stuff. And
yeah.
So I wanted to try to paint, and I was using my hands, but I was already I had difficulty holding the brush and moving it in a straight line. So my mobility on my neck was still good. So I decided to try biting the brush and seeing, my first painting was basically just, can I do a circle? Yes. Can I do a line? Yes. Can I do a dot? And then, so it's just a test. But it was very successful, I thought. So I figured I can do this. So I painted like 2-3 paintings when there's a woman, she's famous, or used to be a famous actress in Iceland. She had MND. So she had kind of gone from being an actress to being a director to running a store, and then eventually being a mouth painter. She was a member already of the International Mouth Painters, a very cool group of people, of mouth and foot painters. And she kind of said, if you're into this, then I will pave the way and help you get into that. So she presented me with like a future in a way. I mean, here's something that you can do that means that your time becomes valuable. You work in a way. So that was kind of, it's not that I did it for the money. I mean, I kind of get bored when I start trying to paint to sell, but it was like, it did give like a roadmap which added motivation. And then my paintings started getting better and better. In the beginning, they were very childish.
Yeah. So what was that like the first time after? Obviously, it must have took a long time to get used to the different paints and holding the brush and the different strokes. What was that like the first time you saw something on canvas that you painted and thought, "Fuck, that's a good painting"? What can you remember that particular painting or that particular moment?
Well, yeah, I mean, there are a couple of them that are kind of mixed together. I'm not absolutely sure which one was the first. But there was one that I painted of an Icelandic waterfall from a picture that a friend of mine had taken. And the experience was so enjoyable because I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know how to mix black like I do today. And so I used the darkest blue, and then I put too much paint on the area where it was supposed to be sand. It was going to be black sand with these white glitters on it. I had no idea how I was going to do that. So I just started off by making it black, but then it was too black. So I used the cloth to wipe it off, revealing like glimpses of the canvas underneath. And then I made this little dot, which was my friend who had actually ran away from the camera and posed just in front of the waterfall, and it worked in 3D. Colors were nice. The water gave the illusion of being flowing, and I think that was the moment where I like, okay, I can do this actually.
Yeah.
And then my British.
Can you see the canvas the whole time you're painting, or do you have to keep moving away from the canvas?
No, I think that is something that makes this experience unique. Is that generally when I start, I used to paint with just the brush. Now I have an extender, so I'm a little bit further away from the canvas. But I used to be like 20, 30 centimeters away from the canvas the entire time that I painted it. And I would just, I loved to try to cover the entire canvas like in one go and then come back and do fine tuning if needed. But so when I stopped painting, somebody took the canvas away from me. It was as if I was seeing the painting for the first time in context. So sometimes I would look at it and like be very unhappy. Oh, it's horrible. But then the next day or 2 days later, I would look at it again and just, no, it's actually not bad.
Yeah.
But every now and then you kind of like, you nailed it. There's one which I did, which is still to this day, I think most people's favorite painting of mine is of the Icelandic Highlands. It's where I used to work as a cabin keeper when I was 14. It's like in the middle of nowhere. And there's this one yellow road mark on the painting of unspoiled nature. And it somehow pops in a way. And so that one, when I did that one, that was like, you coming out of a trance. You just paint. You're not thinking. You're just in a flow. And then you stop, and then I don't feel like I painted that. I feel like it was painted through me somehow. Yeah. Some other part of my brain or subconscious or whatever, or God maybe.
Yeah. Wow. So obviously we met through the NFT scene. For those who don't know, it's not called non-fungible token. It's basically digital art that can be authenticated, and it's pretty new, and it seems to be taking off. The more episodes we do of the Abnormies, we will get more and more into discussing that facet. I don't want to overwhelm people. I don't want this podcast just to be about that one thing in particular. But that's how we met. So when I was first told about you, that there's this guy I know, Brandur's really cool guy, Icelandic. He's paralyzed from the neck down and paints with his mouth. He wants to get involved in the project that you're doing, which is basically trying to help disabled artists. It's called the Graph Giraffe Gang. Again, we'll go into future episodes. Yeah. My initial thought would be that what would happen was I would send you a template of the giraffe, okay, and then you would be painting that with your mouth on actual canvas using paint. But oh no! I was then to discover that you also do something completely different. That you are actually able to digitally paint. Can you explain how it is that you digitally paint?
Well, it's fun that I just kind of started doing that when I meet you. So for whole story, short story is when I was in decline, I was using an iPad, and it was really difficult, using my finger and kind of doing stuff. So if I was writing, I could write maybe 2 lines of text a day, and I would be knackered after that. So my online social media presence was next to none, and my email correspondence was non-existent. And then I tried Dragon Speak voice control, and it works. But at the time, it worked well enough to really annoy you when it didn't work. So you're like, So,
for those who don't know, that's a speech-to-text program, basically similar technology as Alexa, where you speak and then the words come up already typed out on the screen. Yeah.
So that was like, I don't know, 8 years ago or something like that. And but I could use it. So I would say I would be watching a computer. I would say screen. Shit, my Alexa woke up. Computer, stop.
We'll probably set off hundreds of Alexas now.
There's some good jokes about that, but we'll save them for later.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so I could use the voice to kind of, I would say, grid, and then the screen would break up into 9 grids, and then I would say 4, which would break up into 9 grids, and then 6, 7, 9, and then select. And now it would perform a mouse click on that location. So that was a very inefficient way of interacting with 2D digital, space. So mostly what I did was I would go on Coursera or some online streaming pages, and I would turn on a video, and then I would watch the video, and then I would do it again. So that was my interaction digitally then. Then about 6 years ago, I get my first eye-controlled computer, which is from Tobii, Tobii, and they specialize in all kinds of eye tracking computers, and one of which are like for disabled people. Computer, stop. Computer, stop. Back row. Okay, I will remember to disconnect that next time. What was I saying? Yes. Okay. Yeah. So now it took a while. In the beginning, also the technology wasn't as good. It's developed a lot. So it's more accurate and easier to use. The interface, I've had a really good contact with the company. We've met with some of their marketing, and they're very good at responding to feedback about like how the interface should be set up and how it works, because it's a totally new way of interacting with it. And I like to say it took me about 6 months from when I started just feeling relaxed about it. Because in the beginning it's not just about knowing what to do, it's about not doing the things you're not supposed to do. Like the computer's watching where you're looking, so if you aren't conscious of where you look, you might perform an action somewhere which you don't want to do, and that generally creates like a catalyst, and you're like, oh shit, and then everything crashes. But no, but 6 months now, suddenly I could write again. I could. It takes me about an hour to write one page.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm quite slow, but I mean, I've written a lot of text. Now I don't just write 2 lines. I read a lot more. That opened up the possibility of activating social media and sending a lot of emails, which allowed me to start companies, start associations, participate in ongoing conversations about all manner of things, and so that was cool. But I never did art in the eye control. I only did the mouth painting, because when I did art on the computer, again, oh shit, computer, stop, cancel, computer. When I did try, it was all very, very amateur somehow. It wasn't cool. It didn't look nice, and I didn't apply myself. I didn't really try because I didn't break through that barrier. I mean, it was the same barrier that I had gone through with the mouth painting. In the beginning, I was, I didn't know anything, so of course it didn't look very nice. But then, gradually it became better and better. So I think it was because of the NFT that I decided to kind of give it a go, and I wanted to create like an NFT series, which was a collection of the process of me getting better, hopefully, in making digital art. So I have this idea of making like clouds, because clouds are pretty,
Yeah.
And sunsets and sunrises, and then when I started using this really simple program called Keiki, just online paint software, and I was just curious to see what I could do with these limited tools and this different interface. And I still haven't had that woo, that really worked moment, but what I've done so far is kind of like, it pleases me, and I feel like my goal is to make 100 of these, so I've only made 10.
Yeah.
Well, I made 15, so I'm working on I'm gonna release every when I have 10 more, I'll release those. One of the things I did once I came out of the hospital was to try to found an innovation center where we would support disabled entrepreneurs and kind of doing their thing, so they could start companies or projects or create products or whatever. So that's still kind of, we're working on it, but it's been challenging without any kind of sustained funding. Got grants every now and then, so we can work for a year, and then money runs out, and just I get sick of chasing after money all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm going more and more into art. I like mouth painting. I like digital art, so I'm going to continue with the NFT project. Do something fun with you.
Can I just quickly, for those, because obviously you know so much more about it, but for the layman, using the digital thing and the eye tracker, how is it that it works? Is it like a camera that tracks your eye movements, and then do your eyes move the mouse clicker on screen?
Yes.
Right.
So you have so right now I am looking at my computer, and just below the screen I see one big red dot on the right side, and I see two small red dots on the left side, and they are watching me in infrared. And so I open the computer, stop, cancel, and I calibrate the computer. So it can detect how far my head is away from the computer. It looks at my eyes, and like your eyes, you got beautiful blue eyes like me, and there's a difference if you have brown or blue eyes. It's actually it works better with brown eyes actually.
Yeah.
I don't know quite why. It's easier to distinguish the direction of your eyes relative to your computer. So cancel. I'm going to get it. I'm almost got it. And yeah. So and then it uses. I don't know how it uses like AI and machine learning to like auto calibrate, and it's come a long way since I started using it. It was quite frustrating in the beginning. I mean, it was amazing, of course, but like today it's much more accurate. So I know there are like software for phones and iPads and stuff like that. The ones that use head gestures are better, but the eyes are very inaccurate. But the Topi one is pretty good. Kudos to them.
Cool, excellent. Well, Brandur, we're just coming up to the hour mark now, and I think that's what we'll try and aim for. Already, yeah, man. I think that's what we'll try and aim for each episode. Yeah. So for this episode, it was getting to know you. We'll switch that around for the next episode. And then at the
all
end,
your secrets.
Yeah, and at the end of the next episode, we'll both mention that we've spoken about, that we refuse to let these illnesses be seen as irreversible, and we've both got things that we ambitions about that, but we've also got ambitions whilst we are in this condition. So I think we'll chat more about that, and then we'll probably start getting some guests involved, and then progressing from there. So if anyone's either watching us now on YouTube or you're listening to us on iTunes, on Spotify, there should be a link in all the boxes to our social medias. I haven't set them all up yet, but there will be by the time this is released. All the social medias will be linked there. So please go and follow us. Please, thank you for listening. And if you think any of your friends or family would enjoy the show, spread that round. If anyone has any interesting stories or would like to feature on the show, get in touch. And yeah, if you watch it on YouTube, if you can hit the like button and subscribe to us, that would be fantastic.
Subscribe.
Yeah. Like all the cool
I've never heard that before.
Like and subscribe.
And put the bell.
Ring the bell. Ring the bell. And from me and Brandur, we'll see you next time for episode 2 of Abnormies. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.